This is the easiest way to lucid dream. Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another video, and in this video I'm going to tell you the easiest way to lucid dream spontaneously. Maybe you're someone who has tried tons of lucid dreaming techniques and have not really gotten any results from it, and lucid dreaming techniques are amazing to induce lucid dreams at will, but I wouldn't rely on those solely because sometimes they just don't work, and if you're not doing anything else to induce lucid dreams, it will be a lot harder to have those lucid dreams. So what if you just want to have lucid dreams spontaneously without even really trying? Well, that is what we're going to talk about today. The reason why we don't always realize that we're dreaming is because when we're awake, we always just assume that we're awake. We always just assume that we are awake and just go about our day-to-day life without ever checking our surroundings, without ever looking around and becoming critical of what we're experiencing. So if you want to become lucid in your dreams more often, then you need to start creating a habit of awareness and critical thinking in your day-to-day life. Habits that we have during the day carry over into sleep. So if you start to be more aware of your surroundings and start to ask yourself specific questions to really find out if you could be dreaming right now, then you'll actually start to spontaneously ask yourself if you could be dreaming in the dream. And if you create a habit of doing that during waking life, you're going to create a habit of that in the dream world. So you could potentially get lucid every single night by doing this if done correctly. And it's not very common that you'll lucid dream every single night, so don't expect to get lucid every single dream period that you have, but creating a habit of awareness and critical thinking will get you a lot more lucid dreams than if you just relied on lucid dreaming techniques to induce them at will. There's a lot of variables when it comes to lucid dreaming techniques. You want to make sure that you're in the right stage of sleep, you want to make sure that you do the techniques correctly. If you're doing like wild or something, you want to be able to trick your body into thinking that you're asleep. But if you just become more critical and aware and ask yourself certain questions when you're awake, you'll randomly start to do that in the dream without having to wake up in the middle of the night or try to induce a lucid dream at will. So it's a lot easier to get lucid doing this, and creating a habit of awareness during the day is going to create a habit of awareness in your dreams. And obviously, if you're more aware in your dreams, you're going to realize that it's a dream a lot easier. A lot of people don't really ask themselves the question if they could be dreaming. They just count their fingers in waking life. Oh, it's time to do a reality check. And then they're like, nope, I have 10, I'm good to go. And if you do that, then you'll probably just count your fingers really fast in the dream without paying attention, be like, nope, I'm awake. And that gets super frustrating because you had it. You are starting to do reality checks in the dream, but they're not effective because you haven't built up enough awareness around them and you haven't really paid attention to the reality check. So if you really take your time with this and really play a game with yourself and tell yourself that you could be dreaming at any time, you will start to do that in the dream, and you will start to assume that you could be dreaming anytime instead of always just assuming that you're awake in the dream, which is super frustrating. So from now on, anytime anything weird happens in your day-to-day life, anytime anything just off happens or something that catches your attention, you want to stop and ask yourself, what is dreamlike about what I'm experiencing? Do I know where I am right now? Do I know how I got here? Can I see everything in fine detail? Does everything look the way it usually does when I'm awake? Really start to rewire your brain in this way, and becoming more critical of your surroundings and waking life is going to help you become so much more critical in your dreams, and you'll spontaneously get lucid all the time. This is how I get lucid most of the time. I mean, if you really do reality checks correctly, most of your lucid dreams will come from your reality checks. And it's nice because you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night to do a technique. You just wake up and you're like, oh, I got lucid last night, or I got lucid a couple times last night. And it's all because you built a habit of awareness and critical thinking. For example, I had a weird dream the other night where I was at some park or something, and there was like a huge whale in the river and tons of random animals were fighting. There were dinosaurs there were walruses there was like baby alligators there, and it was just weird, okay? Like, obviously that's not really going to happen. And because I realized that it was weird and I've created the habit of checking if I'm dreaming anytime something happens weird in waking life, I automatically was like, wait, this isn't right. Is this a dream? And I observed my surroundings, I counted my fingers, I checked twice, which we will talk about in this video why that's important. And I was able to realize I was dreaming from there. Sometimes I don't even have to do a physical reality check. I'll just ask myself if I'm dreaming in the dream, or as soon as I think about lucid dreaming in the dream, I automatically know that I'm dreaming. So it can become a really easy way to get lucid very easy. So we're going to talk about what makes a good reality check and how to do it correctly. There's two things you want to do when it comes to a reality check. You want to do a physical reality check and a mental reality check. A physical reality check is actually checking something in your physical surroundings. I would recommend checking your hands because it's not guaranteed that you'll have a specific item in every single dream, but you should have your hands, right? And so I always use my hands for a reality check. The dream has a very hard time at detailed pattern recognition, which means little fine details will probably be different or blurred in some way in the dream, so you can use that to your advantage. For example, the lines on your hands. Usually you don't really see those that clearly in the dream, so I will really observe my hands and make sure they look the same. If you have tattoos, you can also use that for a reality check. If you have your phone, you can check the time. And usually what will happen is it will be jumbled in some way or blurred in some way in the dream. So if you make a habit of checking your hands during the day or checking your phone or reading little text, and then you'll start to do that in the dream habitually, and obviously it will be off in some way if you built up enough awareness and paid attention to when you're doing the reality checks, and you'll realize that you're dreaming. So looking for little details that should be there when you're awake will cause you to look for those details in the dream. So hands are amazing for that reason. The next thing is the dream has a hard time at replicating what it just saw, which is why we usually do reality checks twice. One of my favorite reality checks is counting my fingers, but you don't want to just zoom through counting your fingers because you'll just hurry and do it in the dream and it will cause you to miss a chance on getting lucid. So how I do a reality check physically is I will count my fingers and I will really pay attention to them. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And since the dream has a hard time at replicating what it just saw, I will look away and I will count again. Usually, if you do this in the dream, if you create a habit of doing this when you're awake and you start to do this in the dream, you will check twice and it will be different in some way. It's almost like finding a glitch in the dream state. So you want to do things twice, and usually I look pretty fast because the dream, that's a lot of information that the dream has to create really fast. And so you'll usually find a glitch, or when you look back, you'll have more fingers than you had, or your hands will be different in some way. And so you want to use that to your advantage, but you don't just have to use, you don't just have to use your hands. You can start to read text during the day. Like when I'm driving in waking life, I will read billboards really closely and look away and look back to make sure it's the same. Things like that are just in your surroundings. So now anytime that I'm in the dream and I say, oh, it's time to do a reality check, I'll really observe my environment and look twice at everything that I look at, and usually it changes in some way. So use that to your advantage because it will be really, really helpful. I'm sure you've heard of this physical reality check as well. It's pushing your finger through your palm. Obviously, if you're awake, it shouldn't go through, right? It should be solid. And so you really want to pay attention when you do this in waking life. Again, you probably want to do this every hour or so when you're awake because you want to create the habit of thinking about dreaming and checking if you're dreaming. That way you're more likely to do it in the dream because you do it pretty often in waking life. So usually I will count my fingers, look away and look back again, make sure I have 10, and then I will try to push my finger through my palm. You really want to pay attention to this because you want to observe the result from doing this. Because if you do it in the dream and you don't really pay attention when you do reality checks, you're just going to not pay attention and it's going to be frustrating when you wake up. So really take your time with this. Usually I will just make sure, okay, yep, pretty solid. Everything is good. I have 10 fingers. I am good to go. Usually when you do that reality check in the dream, your finger will just go right through because obviously your hand isn't solid. So that's what I mean by trying to find the glitch in the dream. And remember, you have to do these reality checks in waking life consistently if you want to do them in the dream. So make sure to do them as often as you can when you are awake. Another common physical reality check that works really well is holding your nose and breathing in. Obviously, if you're awake and you're plugging your nose and breathing in, you won't be able to breathe, but when I create a habit of this in waking life and I start to do it in my dreams, I can breathe right through my nose. And obviously that's not normal, right? So that's another glitch that I found in the dream. Usually I do about 3 physical reality checks in a row because sometimes one might check out, one might convince you that you're awake. So you don't just want to rely on one, you want to at least do a couple to make sure that you are awake or to find out that you are dreaming. So now that we've talked about physical reality checks, you want to tie that in with a mental reality check. So it's asking yourself questions. How do I know that I'm awake right now? Do I know how I got here? Is there anything weird or dreamlike about what I'm experiencing? And the reason why this is important, because if you're not thinking about the reality check when you do it or really trying to observe your environment, it's going to be really hard to get lucid using reality checks because it's all about critical thinking. You want to have your critical mind activated in the dream. You want to be able to observe when something's not right and ask yourself, wait, is this is a dream? You want to be able to activate that critical mind that's activated during waking life. So in order to activate that, you have to use it more in your waking life. So make sure not to just do a physical reality check, but make sure to tie it in with a mental reality check as well. So a typical reality check would be maybe every hour or so, or when you remember, maybe you can set a time on your phone, but you want to stop and ask yourself the questions while you're doing the physical reality check. So how do I know that I'm awake right now? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Anything weird about what I'm experiencing? Everything seems to be solid. Do I remember how I got here? Where was I 10 minutes ago? You really want to make it like a full check. You don't want to like half-ass it, because I promise you'll start to do that in the dream and it will get pretty frustrating. So really take your time doing this, but this is the easiest way to create spontaneous lucid dreams, because again, if you create a habit of awareness and critical thinking in your waking life, you're going to create a habit of awareness and critical thinking when you're dreaming. So this is very, very important if you want to create spontaneous lucid dreams, and it is by far the easiest way to induce lucid dreams without even really trying. So if you can master reality checks, you can seriously master lucid dreaming. It is foolproof if you do it right, and it's a lot more reliable than just doing induction techniques. Okay, well that is all for this video. I really hoped it helped you. Please let me know down below what your favorite reality check is and what gets you lucid the most. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you're interested in inducing lucid dreams in 30 days or less, make sure to check out my 40-part lucid dreaming video course that is in the description below. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining. I love you so much, and as always, I'm sending you endless love and endless lucidity.